You ready, Dave?
Absolutely.
Awesome, because we're going again with my friend David Tommasini. David, thank you for coming in, brother. Hey, thanks for dropping by the Italian Timmy's and picking up some donuts.
They look
pleasure.
so freaking good. Oh, my God.
Thanks for the invitation.
No, we love it. We're glad you're here.
You know, we don't normally... We sometimes we drink coffee or a whiskey or we do something here depending on the time of the day. We don't eat a lot, But I think there's going to be some lip smacking on the mic today.
I got my eye on a butter tart, I think.
Yeah, I got my eye on everything else.
So, Dave, hey, just let us know off the top who you are, what you do, and where you're from.
Well, I'm a Toronto guy.
Okay.
And been working here for the last since 1987 is when we started up our company. I started flying in 1980 and went up to the Arctic and did that whole bush pilot routine and for a few years, and then decided to come back home and worked locally for a couple of companies, and then I had the crazy idea of starting my own business. And here I am.
Okay, so, and just to be clear, so people that are listening or that don't know you, you're a helicopter pilot.
That's right, yeah.
Where did you learn to do that? Like,
I learned at Toronto at Buttonville, Toronto Helicopters, and it was just one of those things that happened. I was in university. I was not very happy to be there, and I said, there's got to be something else I can do. So
What were you doing in university?
I was studying economics.
yes, so there's something better you could do. That's all right.
So it's either sell insurance or work in a bank. And
Yeah.
I don't know. That wasn't for me. So I just drove by the airport one day and went in, and they do this 20-minute introductory flight. And I thought, well, let me try this. I was good on forklifts and bulldozers and tractors, and if that was related to that, I didn't know. But I went in for the hell of it, and the guy says, "Oh, you're going to be a good pilot. You got great hands. You're just, yeah, you're a natural guy." Oh,
Wow.
really?
He was a good salesman.
So I went home and I told my dad, and I said, "Dad, he says, I'm going to be a great guy. I'm going to be a great pilot." And my dad said, "Yeah, right." And anyway, worked out a deal. I started training, and
Really, eh?
that was it.
You just went in there on a whim.
Yeah, just on a whim. I thought it'd be interesting. I kind of flipped the coin between helicopters and airplanes.
Wow.
And for the once, one of the few times in my life, the coin flipped good, and it worked out. Pretty happy about that.
So what did you learn on back then?
Back then, it was the training helicopter. Then was a Hughes 300,
Okay.
the little piston two-seater, and you spend most of your time on that, learning all the things you need to know. And then I got a couple of endorsements on a Hughes 500 and a Bell Jet Ranger. So that set me up for going out looking for work and getting a job.
And the Hughes 500 was the helicopter they used in Magnum PI. Just
Magnum PI.
Oh,
yeah.
dang.
give some reference.
Yeah,
It's a well-known Vietnam helicopter as well.
that's
isn't
right.
it?
Yeah. Both machines are, but the Hughes 500 is the iconic
Yeah.
military helicopter at the time there. So it's a lot of fun to fly. It's fast, it's powerful.
Is that a turbine?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's fast, powerful. You can do a lot of cool things with it, and yeah, it's a nice little helicopter. And then the Jet Ranger is that the classic thing that everybody knows about,
Right.
and it's the standard of the industry. That's what at that time everybody was getting into or flying, and that's what you would start off with. So I had a good training background, and then trying to get a job, and went from there. My first job was up in Yellowknife in the Arctic. I had never been north of Highway 7,
Okay.
so I ended up driving up there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was a bit of a drive.
And once I crossed the border from Alberta to Northwest Territory, it's all gravel road. And I thought, what the hell did I get myself into now? And that was my start. That's probably the best thing I ever did. It was amazing.
And what'd you fly there?
I
Sorry,
flew-
but
No.
I flew a Jet Ranger.
okay.
And the stuff that we did up there was all exploration work, but mostly moving geologists around
Okay.
and moving drills
Wow.
and all that kind of thing. Wildlife work. Some of the coolest things we did were looking for gyrfalcons. The government was doing surveys to find out, how many they had, and they would tag them and then sell them to the Saudis.
Oh, wow.
And that was a big deal for a while.
Why? What's that for?
The Saudis?
Like falconry? Like
Oh, okay.
they hunt, right? Do they use them to hunt?
Or they play around
Some
with
kind
it
of
or something
sport?
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but for them, it's a big deal.
Okay, wow, neat.
So we would go out and find the nests, find the birds, tag them, and you're landing on cliffs and all kinds of cool things like that.
Now you land, and then you stand outside and you watch them.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
You must have seen some amazing stuff.
Up there, it's incredible. I appreciate it more now than I did when I was there.
Right.
And
Sure.
but it's completely unspoiled nature. They go up there to work or whatever, but once you get past out of town, it is just nothing but barren land. It's lakes, rivers, but just pristine nature.
Yeah.
You see a lot of animal life in its pure form. A lot of times we'd be camping right in the middle of a caribou migration. And they're walking right by our tents. They're just kind of beelining wherever they're going.
Yeah.
And you go up there in the spring, you see the migrations of geese and ducks and all kinds of things. It is just phenomenal. But if you haven't been there, you can't really appreciate
Yeah, I've never been there.
Sure.
nature in its stand. And for a guy like me coming out of Toronto, it was such an eye-opening experience that I'll treasure forever.
That's
And
awesome.
be able to
Wow.
work up there, yeah, it's just incredible.
And how do you land a chopper on a mountain?
Oh, depending where you are. I mean, there's little areas big enough that you can touch down like a flat piece of rock or something like that or whatever. But
And that's it. You're just looking for something like that.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Did you ever have to hover above something and a guy has to rappel in or something like that?
Well,
Save a baby pterodactyl or something?
No, we never really did that part. We did that kind of stuff when we started working in film work. And all
Okay.
that. But,
Yeah, for sure.
For normal stuff, no, we wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
and where are you stationed in Northwest Territories?
I living in Yellowknife.
Yellowknife. Isn't that where Paulie just moved to? Shout out to Paul Rutledge. Do you remember Paul Rutledge? Stunt guy.
Yellowknife.
Horse guy.
Yeah, I think so.
He just moved his family up there.
Wow.
Well, he went to Yukon.
Was it Yukon? I thought it was Yellowknife. I'm sure he'll see this and
Shit,
correct
that's a
me.
good
So I'll
question.
get-
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was up there for, I guess, 4 years, and then I moved back to,
Wow.
I got a job in Montreal, so I worked Quebec and northern Manitoba, toured around for a while. And then I decided to come home.
So, like in Montreal, like what kind of touring? Like, what is it?
That was just where the company was located, so we would work all over Quebec, working for, at that time, Hydro-Quebec, and then northern Quebec and some of the settlements up there doing the same kind of stuff I was doing out of Yellowknife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I had a very, very short stint working for Bell Helicopter in Calgary in my early 20s at the warehouse.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to meet a lot of pilots. And the one pilot, he walked with a bit of a limp. And I asked him if it was as a result of a helicopter. And he said it sure was. He said, young, and I don't mean young in age, I mean young in experience pilots. The younger guys, less experienced, get the hardest jobs, he said. The experienced pilots don't want to do them, so they get you to do it.
That makes sense.
And
eh?
he was flying telephone poles and putting them into the sides of mountains. And he was very low and his chopper cut out and he ended up rolling down the mountain and broke his ankle. It's an interesting story.
Sounds like a decent injury, all things considered.
Yeah, well, he's maybe lucky to be here, to be honest. But it just reminds me when you said they put you up there to land on mountains.
Yeah.
We had at one job, we were flying up and down the Mackenzie River Valley and servicing all the microwave towers they were using at that time for telephone and so on. And they were always situated on the peak of, they call them mountains. They're not really mountains in that area, but they're high enough. And you have to fly up there and drop these guys off and wait for them to fix the generator or whatever. But you got to learn, that the winds up there change, quite dramatically. You've got to be able to work with that and visibilities and so on. So it takes a bit of getting used to. Just part of the skill set that you develop as you're flying a helicopter. You have to be able to do things. And that's the part I really liked about it because it's always changing. My idea of an airplane job is runway to runway and okay, good enough. But helicopter guys are always doing something every day. It's just so dynamic that, you always work. You're never great. You're always getting better, learning your skills, learning stuff. And that's the challenge that's always, I found attractive.
What do you think of some of these guys now? I love watching the guys that are flying for Red Bull. and they're dropping snowboarders up at the top, and then they're upside down, flying down the mountain, and this guy's doing flips and barrel rolls or something now. That's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, that's the elite group. The guys that do stuff like that. They're few and far between. They're pretty skilled and good at what they do, obviously, because they wouldn't be around if they weren't. But,
Sure.
They're pushing themselves and the aircraft to their limits, and they're not afraid to do that, which is pretty cool. Guys like us, we get really conservative. We just want to be able to get home at the end of the day, and we don't fool around anymore.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm with you. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But same guys, Red Bull, the guys that do that stuff on motorcycles.
Oh yeah, of course,
I'm
course.
just going to go to Zares on
But still, when you're practicing something like that in the air, practicing on a motorcycle,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, crazy.
So, Dave, just so people can people that don't know helicopters can get a sense of what you're talking about, like you're actually using all four limbs to do this.
Yeah.
And your feet control the rear rudder?
Yes, it's a coordination exercise, and especially some of the more utilitarian machines that aren't that too complicated. You're working your feet on the pedals so that they're controlling the tail rotor. We got the other hand on the collective, and maybe sometimes even on the throttle, and then you have your other hand on the cyclic, which is directional control. You move one control, you got to move the others as well. So that's a balance between everything else to make the machine perform like you want. And it's, I compare it to riding a motorcycle and driving a car.
Okay.
It's a balance thing.
I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the perfect example, but if you want to explain it to somebody, you can drive a car, but then if you want to drive the motorcycle, it's the next step up. You got to balance, you got to throttle brakes, you got to stay upright and not fall down. All that sort of thing. So in the helicopter, compared, let's say, to an airplane, you have an extra degree of coordination to fly straight, to do an approach, to take off, to hover, and do some of the jobs that you would do with a helicopter. And it's just a matter of working all four controls at once and doing it in a way that's sufficient for the helicopter, smooth, that sort of thing, and be able to control your movements. And the more time you spend, like I said, you're never great at what you do. You're always getting better. And the more time you have, the more experience you have. And the more activities you do, you have a great, you develop that level of control.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the cyclic, you mentioned it also has the throttle?
No, the collective. That's
the collective.
It'll be a stick on the side here. So when I pull up, it turns the blade so the helicopter will lift up vertically. But it also controls the engine power. So the more the faster you want to climb or the faster you want to travel, there's more power it's going to take. So that's coordinated on the collective. On turbine engines, the engine is automatically governed by how much you move that collective. And the cyclic is how you steer the helicopter. If you look at let's say a dinner plate, if it's straight and level, the helicopter is hovering. When you move the cyclic, that plate moves in the direction that you move your cyclic, and that's how the helicopter will move around and change direction. So if you push let's say to the right, the helicopter will turn to the right. And then the pedals basically work the tail rotor. So when you're a hover, the natural tendency of the helicopter is to spin in the opposite direction of the main rotor because of the torque of the engine that's driving the main rotor. And you're not on the ground to stop that from happening. So in the air, you need something to counteract that torque. And that's what the tail rotor does.
So sitting on the ground,
Yeah.
because there's friction,
Yeah.
it won't turn?
No.
Okay.
But as soon as you apply power, you're lifting off, and however you've lost
It'll
that
start to
contact, it'll spin on its own. So you counteract that with the tail rotor.
Jesus.
And the more, let's say
Interesting.
the heavier the helicopter is, you'll need more power to turn it. It's going to be more torque to the main rotor, so you have to adjust your pedals accordingly. So you're always, every time, like I say, you move one control, you move the other two. And at first, when you're flying, it's a thought process. You got to think about it because you're always doing this kind of stuff.
Right.
And then after a while, you build up some time and experience. It becomes natural.
Well, it's like driving a car, like you said. Because
Pretty much, yeah.
I imagine it sort of becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
when you're driving a motorcycle for the first time, you take your course, people are, I got to clutch, I got to shift, I got to do this, I got to look in my mirror. But, after
Well,
years.
it's like when you're in a car
That's
and you do
interesting.
a parallel park, you can sort of feel the curb even though you're not touching the curb. You can kind of, you know
Yeah.
your car. I imagine that you kind of get a feel like that.
Yeah. The only difference is the consequences when you make a mistake.
I bet.
Yeah.
So on a motorcycle, you fall over. In a car, you dent somebody else.
Is there any room for a mistake in a helicopter? People say make mistakes, you learn. Well, in a helicopter, can you make any?
There's, I don't know. It depends. There's a bit of a margin. Sometimes you get away with things but if you really make a mistake, you're in a bit of trouble.
Wow.
Yeah. So you got to be careful. You got to always think about that kind of stuff. Look for an out, or know your limits. Know what the helicopter can perform. Know what your limits are, so you don't make mistakes. You don't get into that situation that could cause you some problems.
So I'm assuming you have to get rated for each different chopper, right?
Yeah. Each helicopter is different. They all fly the same. We say everything flies at 60 miles an hour, but there's different procedures. There's different techniques. There's different things. There might be different ways to different technology in the helicopters. You have to get used to that and learn it because it'll affect exactly what you're doing flying wise. So every machine you have to be checked out, endorsed, and trained on to fly.
So, and some choppers have the two rotors, right? I mean, are they working off the same controls?
Yeah, I have never flown one, so I don't have experience
Okay.
one. But technically speaking, yeah, it's the same deal.
Same deal.
Yeah.
So when you move your cyclic, those two blades would two.
Yeah, so when you move the cyclic, the blades move in a way that disc that I was talking to you about will tilt in that direction that you want to fly.
Mm-hmm.
So one blade will lift more than the other, and it turns into a tilt, and the helicopter goes in that direction. When you lift up the collective, you're lifting both blades equally. So it'll essentially lift vertically, or provide enough lift to go at a certain rate of speed or whatever speed you can get out of it by pulling it up. That's why they call it a collective. It's a collective increase in the blades.
Okay.
Whereas a cyclic is a cyclical change of pitch in the blades. As the blades go around, they change and they move around, and that's how you make directional changes there.
It's fascinating.
Very
So,
fascinating.
Can you briefly explain why a helicopter won't just drop out of the sky if the engine shuts off high enough?
That's what we train for, and if all goes well, we're in good shape.
Wow.
The aircraft is designed to glide without engine power.
Okay.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's the only way it can be certified, and so on. So what happens? The engine disconnects from the main rotor transmission, so it's not providing power. But as you start to immediately descend, and again, another comparison is the maple trees with the seeds, what they call those
The
things.
keys?
Yeah. So it'll just start coming down, but you can control the aircraft direction just like you had power, but you're just descending at a significant rate of descent.
Yeah.
And there's a procedure to extend the glide if you need to reach a flat area so you can land, or decrease the area. There's ways of doing that, and then you try to get yourself, so you do an approach to a spot that you've selected that's it's adequate. You do a flare to stop the forward speed,
Okay.
and you bring it down close to the ground. Then at the last 10, 15 feet, you pull up on the collective to cushion the touchdown. And it works great in training, and you only hope that you can do that when you're actually in the job,
In the middle of some shit.
because you'll always experience an engine failure when you're least expected, when you're least prepared, when you least wanted to.
Now, I can only assume that you have to be at a certain height for this to work properly.
Yeah, I mean, we do it from the hover.
At what height, though?
We'll practice at 10 feet off.
Oh,
the
wow.
hover.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll do that on takeoff. We'll have a simulated engine failure on takeoff, and we've got to be able to put the machine on the ground. And then in cruise flight, that'll happen. And you got to be able to pick your spot and maneuver the aircraft so you can get there either straight ahead, or you do a 180, or you do a 360, whatever it takes to get to that spot that you can first of all, survive or be able to save the aircraft from any damage.
I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that maybe in a plane there was like that gliding situation, and that a helicopter just simply becomes a plastic kid's toy.
Yeah, the airplane, it's got a glide factor as well, but you need an extensive runway to do it. You can't maneuver it as
True enough.
easy as we can.
Okay.
And some manufacturers have gone to installing a parachute
On the helicopter.
on the airplane, not on the
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah. So there's an airplane out there that's got an emergency chute. If you have an engine failure, that chute will pop up and that'll cushion your landing. You can pretty much put it down anywhere if you're lucky.
Fascinating.
whoa. Yeah,
It's like an airbag.
that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like a drag car or something, just keeping it, from hitting the wall at the end.
That's crazy, man. Has this ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Like, not just in training, but in real life?
Yeah.
Once?
More than once.
Wow.
Anything wild?
Like, is it a pucker factor? Like, all of a sudden there's no noise.
You know, it happens so quickly when it does happen. You pucker after.
I suppose that's true.
During the event, you're just holy
Working.
shit, here we go. And it's happened a few times. And it's not something I'd like to talk. I don't like crazy talking about it because it's,
Yeah, sure.
It's one of those things. But, it's the reality of what we do. Sooner or later, somebody's going to have a failure.
Yeah.
And you just hope that, that you've been trained well enough that you can remember what you have to do and that you react accordingly. Because, the rate of descent, usually in an engine failure, is 2,000 feet per minute. We're usually flying
2,000 feet per minute.
We're usually flying at 1,000 feet off the ground, so you have 30 seconds to
Figure out what the hell
do the
you're
right
gonna
thing.
Man, you got to be clear-headed.
Oh,
You can't be daydreaming.
no.
Holy mackerel.
The way I do it, I don't know what other guys do, but in my case, as soon as I get in the helicopter, I put my helicopter face on. It's just everything. I don't think about anything else. I'm just thinking about what I'm doing in the aircraft. I don't play music or anything like that. It's just
Are there guys doing that? Playing some tunes? And
they're rocking and rolling.
yeah.
Really?
Good for them, but I like to hear what's going on. That's just the way it is. I like
Makes
to
sense
hear
to me.
everything, and I try to be in tune as much as I can. There are days when I'm not, whatever. But when I try to focus as hard as I can. That if something happens, what do I do? That's always in the back of my mind. I'll be flying along. Can I reach that park over there? If something let go, can I make that
Oh,
park?
yes,
Or
of
that
course.
road, or it's always there. So just the habit I got into, and if I have to, then I think I can pull it off. And so far it's worked the few times it's happened. So
Well, you're sitting here, brother.
yeah,
Yeah,
This is-
man.
This is wicked.
I have a similar mind like that when I drive. I feel like a lot of people don't.
Well, you get
but
that
I'm
from
always
stunt
looking.
driving.
Yeah, I'm looking for
You have that
a
experience.
way out, if anything ever.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine that just makes the best pilots is having that mind frame
yeah.
Wow.
and not having AC/DC going off in your ear there, or
Yeah, and you can't hear your engine shut off.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Wow.
A lot of times I'll have the intercom. And I'll just flip off the passengers. I don't want to hear them talk, and I just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Let me do my thing, and you guys do what you want to do. But I like to keep it nice and quiet and focused and do our business.
Well, speaking of passengers, you've had some pretty big names on your pretty big film and television names on your choppers.
Do you like the term chopper? Is that a bad term? Because I know I've been using it. But every time I say chopper,
Sorry,
he uses
Dave.
helicopter.
That's funny. I don't think a lot of us guys call them choppers. We call them machines.
Okay.
That's
so
our term of endearment for a helicopter.
Really?
Machine.
Okay.
The machine.
The
yeah.
machine.
But if you want to call it chopper, you go right ahead.
Well, it's just 60s movies.
Yeah, true. But yeah, can we get into talking some film and television?
Sure. Can I mention one thing, though?
Yeah.
They train people on those little Robbies.
yeah.
We had a friend, one of my daughter's best friends, Tiffany Hanna. Did you know Tiffany at all?
She was wonderful.
She,
Wonderful.
I remember when Tiffany came to me and said she's going to learn how to fly choppers. helicopters. She says, I can't wait to fly
Machines.
machines.
Yeah.
She was the funniest. She should have been a comedian. This girl was delightful. But she was here in Cambridge and a few years ago. Had something to do, I believe, with, and I stand, trimming the to heat the,
Oh, the one that went down in Kitchener, the Destructor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one. Jeez,
Yeah,
I
that was
I went to her
different.
funeral.
Yeah.
It was, it was. You know, when these things happen, you tend to think about it, bit of a thought thing, and it was so bizarre that what happened, from what I understand, is that she was flying with a student, and in that particular helicopter, you have to regulate the carb heat. And I think there was some miscommunication in between the two of them who turned it on or turned it off. So the engine quit. They were just taken off, and it quit. And they landed in the water. There's a retaining pond. Of all the places to land on the airport, they ended up there. If they had landed on a solid surface, they would have been fine.
Really?
They landed in the water, and the impact, and she was killed in there.
Yeah.
You just wonder how does that happen?
Yeah.
You know, how something like that. Like I said, if she had landed on hard surface, it would have been just fine. They just would have had an engine failure, put her down, and that would have been the end of it. But ending up in that particular spot, that location, changed everything, and
Oh my God.
so it was very, very sad. She was an amazing lady and really nice. Everybody liked her, and good pilot.
Yeah. No, she was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up with this. I wanted to see if you had the same information I had with the carburetor deal. Wow.
And again, you wonder, why do we still have that? You know, that's old technology. You don't need to.
Really?
Yeah. It's called carb icing.
Yeah.
Depending on the conditions and all that, you'll get some icing inside the carb, and it restricts the engine power, or it'll shut it right off depending how bad it is. And you control that heat to warm that so it doesn't happen. But it's a manual thing. You got to remember to do it. It's not automatic. Or with fuel injected engines, I don't think you need that anymore. That's not a problem. But that's still a thing. And
Like the machines you fly, notice I used the word machines.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
They don't have that.
No, I mean the turbines don't have that. That's not an issue. But
Okay. And you don't know why they would continue using such technology?
no, I don't really. It's not my expertise, so I can't really. I have an opinion, but you know, sometimes changes are slow happening in aviation because they're kind of set in stone, or people like the way that is, or
Yeah.
liability issues or whatever. So they don't make changes very quickly,
Right.
and so it takes a while. But
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's interesting that they put an inexperienced person on. Well, not inexperienced, but anyway, with that technology.
Well, it's not. It was. I thought about Tiffany, and I
Yeah.
didn't know whether to mention her or not, but I kind of appreciate this bit of an explanation as to what went
Yeah,
on.
me too. Okay,
Yeah.
talk about the movies.
Thanks, Dave.
Hey, the last time you and I worked together, and I, say worked together, I don't think I saw you,
Yeah, I've worked with you a million times. I just haven't shaken hands yet.
was on the Escape, the BMW movie,
yeah,
directed by Neil Blomkamp. Did you have a fun experience?
yeah, I did. It was fun. It was interesting, and I was really keen to be on that job. I'm a big fan of that BMW commercial thing that they did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, the several different episodes.
When they first came out, I sent a note to be. You could get the DVD from BMW, so I applied. I sent a request, and I got this DVD.
Oh, cool.
And
Cool.
I was in Detroit at the Detroit Auto Show the year they came out with that,
Okay.
and that's where the first time I saw that. I went walking around. I went to the BMW display. They had a huge wall monitor, and they were playing this on a loop. The crowd that was there just to watch the shorts was unbelievable. I'd never seen anything like it. I was mesmerized. I thought the quality of the
And this was the first one they did?
the first series There was 3 or 4 of them. I can't remember.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 or 5.
Had Madonna in it or something.
Madonna, James Brown.
Madonna's husband directed it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a few others, but I was just blown away. The production value, the quality of the writing, the storylines. It was so well done as a commercial or as a promotional material. So when I heard this was coming, I thought, "Wow, I got to get in on this. This is going to be great." So we got the call, and it was fun. It was complicated. There was a lot of stuff going on. They were always changing, what they wanted to do, and because of the locations, we had to do up a lot of permits with Transport Canada and negotiate altitudes and limitations. It was constant stuff. But I think we did some nice stuff there.
So you flew the camera ship?
I flew the picture ship.
Okay, and
I had my other guy was flying the camera ship.
right. Oh, okay.
But we had all that gun stuff going on, and chase scene down the what's that road in Hamilton there, that little parkway, what do they call it?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Under the bridge there, right? Is
It
that
was over and under the bridge, yeah.
And I don't remember the name.
the red? So no, that's not it.
But no, it's one that goes cross town through all the steel places there.
Yeah.
So we've been
Yeah.
there a number of times, did stuff there. But we're doing that chase scene. We had that actor guy.
Clive Owen,
Yeah, no.
John Bernthal.
Yeah, John Bernthal was one of the guys.
The bad guy.
Yeah, he jumped out of the helicopter at the end.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
John
that was
Bernthal.
John. Yeah.
So we had him, and he was a nice guy. He was really nice to work with. But it was a good shot, good job. I saw it, the final thought. I thought it was okay. The show looked good.
I had heard that Neil Blomkamp, the director, is also an editor. That's the world he comes from, and he wasn't happy apparently with the edit because he actually had BMW people in the editing bay telling him to put this in or cut there. And,
Of course.
yeah, so he wasn't particularly pleased. This is what I've heard, but yeah, it turned out okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the originals are classics. I thought they were just phenomenal. That the James Brown one is stunning.
I haven't
No,
seen
I
it.
have
I
to-
gotta check it out.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And then the Madonna one was pretty cool. There's another one there, a hostage one.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that one? The guy's, the woman's in the trunk,
No.
sinking in the river, and Clive goes and gets her out or whatever.
Oh wow.
There's another one about a photojournalist who gets killed. And
How many of these did they do?
I think 5 or 6 of them or something.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really remember.
it was 5 or 6.
Well, we did the last one,
Yeah.
The Escape. With
They
Clive
all
Owen.
had prominent directors, high-end actors, and incredible storylines. They were really, really well done.
Yeah.
But we had a blast. I mean, what did we shoot for?
Yeah, it was fun
7
as hell.
days? Flipping a Hummer and
Yeah.
flipping that transport truck was a blast.
Nearly rolling cars and
Yeah.
accidentally. And,
Yeah. No, that's another podcast.
yeah. Yeah, wild man. What was the first shoot you ever did? How did it start? What got you
that's
into
a good
the business?
question.
So I think the first thing I ever did that I can remember was TV show. My name escapes me now. I was thinking about it today on the way in. Littlest Hobo.
Okay. Yeah, that takes us back a bit.
Yeah. And that time I had moved back. I was working with Ron Boyd. I don't know if you remember him, Ontario Helicopters.
I don't.
In the 80s, 70s and 80s, he was the helicopter film guy in Toronto.
Okay.
And so I did some work with him, and that was the show we did. I think that was my first one. But Ron was the film guy at the time, helicopter guy. Yeah, he was quite legendary. He had developed special equipment. He was known for that kind of work. He did some pretty significant shows. He did North of Superior. He did an IMAX thing there of Niagara Falls, which I think is still playing in that Niagara IMAX theater that they have there.
Oh wow.
And that was back in the 80s, or early 80s. So I did some stuff with him, and he was sort of, I won't say a mentor, but a guy that I looked up to, and his helicopter company is what I wanted to do. That's the exact same thing I wanted to to do the same thing. So we talked a lot and spent time together. I wanted to buy his company and start, just take it over, but that didn't work out. So I started my own, but we ended up collaborating on jobs. We would work together on shoots or go on to fight fires and all that kind of thing. And then he passed away, and I kind of stepped into his shoes there, I guess, and took over the local, or worked the local market.
Okay, so I don't want to go away from the film stuff, but
Yeah.
did you say you went and fought fires?
Yeah, when I first started, that's pretty much what everybody does, is they go on forest fires.
Okay.
So I spent the first few years I was working in Algonquin Park, or I'd go to Kenora. I just stayed in Ontario. But then I realized every time fire season started, all the helicopters would leave Toronto, and there was nothing left behind. So I thought maybe I'll see if I'll stay home one summer. We'll see how that works. And that's where I started picking up all the business,
Oh, that's interesting.
and it paid off enough that I said, I'll let the other guys do the fire stuff. I'll just stay home. And I developed a local market with the film, the corporate stuff, and then whatever else I can get out of town.
Now, how many films have you done? People look it up. What's your website?
It's fourseasonsaviation.com. But I put stuff on IMDb, and I'm on there as well. I don't know how many I've done, though. I haven't counted.
Yeah, lots.
I guess so, yeah.
Do you remember flying over my shoulder while I hugged onto Michael Douglas on the jet ski on the lake?
Yeah, that's a while back, too.
Yeah, it's a
Jeez,
while back.
Yeah,
What's that called? The in-laws.
yeah.
Was that here? No, wasn't that close by?
Yeah, we shot it in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
But we were just in the lake, and then Michael Douglas was driving the jet ski, and I was holding on to him, doubling Albert Brooks.
That's fun.
With Dave right there. Well, at least it sounded like you were right there, Dave.
Yeah.
It was fun.
What else have we done together? I'm trying to remember a few things.
Oh, there's a number of things.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the TV series Beauty and the Beast, I was actually playing a machine pilot, sitting in your helicopter, which brings me to another question I got to keep in mind, where I was going to take off, and I only got like 5 or 6 feet in the air, and the Beast grabs the skid. Remember that? I mean, there's got to...
It pulls you out or something?
Yeah, well, yeah, in a closer shot, he pulls me out of the helicopter.
Oh, I see.
But that's you flying it, of course. We talked earlier before the podcast about the rotor wash, and there's a cushion of air below you, and it's harder to hover low than higher. Does that make sense? Is that true?
Not so much for me, but the aircraft does better lower because it builds a cushion of air that supports the aircraft. So it's less power
Oh, I see.
to fly, let's say, between 5 and 10 feet off the ground. It builds this cushion of air that helps you hover. And when you get up past that point, you lose that cushion. Now you need more power to sustain a hover.
Okay.
So handling wise and all that, it doesn't make much of a difference for me.
But you're up there 6 feet high. Like the skids are 6 feet off the ground, and you're kind of rocking because he's supposed to grab it and try to pull you back down. We're all standing there in awe that you're doing this and making it look like he's pulling it, and it's incredible. It was really cool to watch. Well, here's the question:
It is.
why do helicopter pilots sit on the right side and not the left?
That's just the way the aircraft have been designed. There's a couple of exceptions, like the Hughes 500, for instance. You fly on the left, you don't fly on the right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But everything else pretty much is on the right side. It's just the way the controls are situated. It's just a traditional
A
thing.
lot of smaller airplane pilots also sit on the right, do they not?
They're mainly on the left.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When Andrew drives his car, he sits on that right.
Yeah.
He reaches over.
I don't know why I do it, but gotta.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all. I've just never, like, were they designed in Britain?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's
Now, the
very-
roadways are different in the sky. You know, you don't have to stay on the left.
So what did you
Or on the right.
You did
Wow.
Blues Brothers 2000, the movie.
Yep.
I was driving one of those cop cars racing up the street. Were you following us there?
I don't know if we did. I know we went in, we did one shot. We were in and out, I think, within minutes. I remember that was kind of stands out. That's, what's his name was directing that.
Oh my
I
God.
don't know.
You know who I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, I absolutely do. He did the Michael Jackson movie, the Michael Jackson's Thriller.
He did Twilight Zone.
That's correct.
And I don't know if you remember that show. That was a helicopter accident there.
Yes,
Vic Morrow was killed.
yes,
And I think the kids were,
yes.
right. So he was director in that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a big deal that came out of that lawsuit and everything else. And he got away. He got off. Nothing happened. So we're
A little apprehensive.
No, I was fine. But we were told by an AD, don't talk about helicopters. Don't, just keep quiet. Don't say anything. Just
Right.
do your thing. So we went up. We did a shot. They had a big tent there or something like that. We did some aerials of the tent. There was some scene happening, and I did one or two takes. And yeah, you're done. You can go home. I said, do you want us to do anything else? No, your day's done. You can leave now. And we just went home. We had booked the whole day, had the Westcam camera, the whole 9 yards. So it was a big deal.
I love when that happens.
And I said, okay, fine. So we just went home and that was it. But it was kind of for us anyway, it was kind of neat. But we had all that background shit going on as well. It was quite something.
Remember Frenchie Burger?
Yeah.
Love. Shout out to Frenchie. God bless him.
Yeah.
I was on set, and that director, was demanding that Frenchie allow an actor to take this big handgun and fire it at close range at another actor. And Frenchie says, nope, can't do it. Not going to happen. And we're all the stunt guys, we're all standing around listening to this argument. And the director was quite hot. And he turned to Frenchie and he said, I've worked with guns before. And Frenchie said, yes, and I also understand you've worked with helicopters. And Frenchie turned around and walked away. You guys, my hero.
Yeah, man. You must have had some pretty crazy director requests or something. Some directors come in saying, you're a pro. Can you help me figure out what I want? But we're going to abide by what you tell us. And then there's got to be directors, very similar to conversing with stunt coordinators. This is what I want. There's kind of no other way around it.
Yeah, we've had a few of those. And that's the one thing about working in film. You have to be able to talk your way into and out of a situation.
Yeah.
With all due respect to everybody else and all that, but you've got to be able to communicate how things can be done safely, effectively, and still get what they want at the end of the day. It's easy to say no, but that's not the right answer, always.
It's always a line you're dancing on, kind of.
Yeah, so you say, well, that looks good, but I suggest we do it this way. For me, it works better. I can get what you want, and it just works better for me and everything else. We just have to make an adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
And if I find the way, if you talk to them, or if I always, for a long time, been working with Shelley. She's my coordinator.
Yeah, Shelley Cook, stunt coordinator.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great lady.
And Shelley will do that talking for me. She has a good way of communicating with these guys. They know her.
Massive experience
Big
there.
time.
There's a lot of respect. And when she shows up on the set, the whole mood changes. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm able to focus doing what I want, what I need to do. And she'll be able to direct me or make that call so that everybody gets what they want. So there's like a buffer, but a little bit more than that as well. And that's the difference between a safe shot and a problem shot. And exactly that's what happened on that Vic Morrow thing.
The Twilight Zone.
Yeah. We have a director calling, to do that kind of stuff, and the pilot's going, yeah, sure, let's do it, and starts avoiding or not paying attention to the safety aspects, and then things happen.
So now, Okay, can we speak about that for a bit? The special effects guys who put in the pyro, I understand they put in more than what was expected, either purposely as a direction from the
Yeah.
production without telling the pilot. Does will a huge plume of flame that's really hot, eating up all that oxygen, does that work against what the helicopter is flying through?
Yeah.
So, did it reach that chopper?
From what I've read, there's a book out on that thing.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of it, but when I have other guys working with me on film stuff, I make them read that book. There's a lot of information in there about how it happened, why, and the aftermath, which is really important. The whole legal thing that went on and the consequences. It's a good thing to know. And from what I remember, you're right. The pyrotechnics were an issue, and the pilot had flown low to be in the shot. That was the whole thing. And it just the wrong combination of altitude, pyros, and it was at night. Actors, the kids shouldn't have been there.
They weren't supposed to be.
There was a whole bunch of stuff that they call the Swiss cheese thing, where it just all these elements coming together. If you just pull one thing out, like if you plug a hole or pull out a thing there, the chain of events will stop. So if he had been maybe 10 or 20, 30 feet higher, would have been okay. If they had less pyro, that would have been fine. If those kids weren't there, that would have been great. If it was a daytime shot, it would have been nice too. So we put all that combination together, and you have apparently the pilot, he wasn't very experienced in the film world and eager to be part of that community of pilots, being maybe a little bit too ambitious, going over his limits of what he can do, what he can't do. Then things happen.
Didn't have the balls to say no, maybe.
I won't say balls. You're eager. You're excited. You want to be part of that. So you want to
Yes,
do the
okay.
thing, like anybody else. But it's the consequences that make the difference here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's what happened. That's one of those things. Yeah.
Okay.
Man.
Dave and I were talking before the podcast started about a friend of ours. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
Speaking of consequences.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Anton Tycote.
Yeah, that was amazing. Oh, amazing! I find it hard to put the right words in place for this thing because it's quite something, and not just for me, but everybody that knew him. He covered a lot of things there. So, I worked occasionally with Ty on some of the jobs. I got to know him a little bit, and then we became friends. And he would invite me down to the Indian to play pool.
Okay.
So we'd go down there and kind of do what guys do, and a couple of beers, a couple of cigars, and just talk about stuff. And it was a good thing. We go down once a month maybe and all that sort of thing. But he had developed that relationship, and he was getting close to retiring from the paramedic thing. So I said, why don't you consider coming working with me? You can fly, and we can coordinate, and we can do this movie stuff, we seem to work well together and do really well in the film world. So we were working on that, and I also found out he was born the day before I was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're both the same age, one day apart.
Wow, that's cool.
So there's something there. So the day I was working in Toronto, we had a job. I was down at the docks at our helipad down there, and he was flying home from Uxbridge. I said, well, why don't you pop in and hang out for a bit while we're doing this stuff here, and then whatever. He never showed up. I thought maybe he just went home. And then I got back home around midnight, and I get this message that Ty was in an accident. And then the next day I found out what happened. And it really shook me out because, I lost a friend, but I also lost somebody I was going to be working with and all that. So, And the way it happened was just one of those things, again, like you ask, why does this stuff happen? It's almost like some kind of modern take on the Greek tragedy. It's inexplicable. But the events of that day were pretty serious. There was something else.
Yeah, it shook a community.
Yeah,
Like it's devastating. And for people that are listening, Anton Tycote was an incredible stunt coordinator, an incredible stuntman, and full-fledged paramedic, as you say, on the verge of retiring. He was looking at those big airplanes that with the bellies opened up. Him and his buddy. Was you? No, somebody else. Yeah, we talked extensively about his dream of doing that. Just a week before, another stunt guy, his horse slipped out from underneath him and he hit his head on the ground pretty hard. And he had, in that 1 week, I believe, 2 brain surgeries. He's fine now. So at about 8 o'clock in the morning, my wife's office phone rang. And then she told me it was for me. Jody Tansley was on the phone, and I'm wondering, why is Jody calling me? And my mind went to Rick, who fell off his horse. Well, his horse fell. And then she told me about Ty. Devastating.
Yeah, I remember that day.
yeah.
And I was young, but that was a crazy day.
So, do you know what happened?
So, the best of my knowledge, trying to remember, he was flying back and he had an R-22.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's flying back, some guy in a Cessna took off from his private grass strip and flew up and hit Ty from behind. Never saw him, apparently. Ty never saw it either. He was going one way. This guy was coming up behind him.
He was on his takeoff? Or he was mid-flight?
Yeah, he just had taken off from
Oh,
his
wow.
airplane.
Okay.
So he was climbing up.
Ah,
So he didn't have good didn't have a good angle to see Ty or something like that. So he hit him from behind, and Ty ended up crashing. And he landed in a field. He was okay. But that's just part of this. The rest of the story, from what I remember, that guy should never been flying.
This is my understanding.
Everything he did that day was illegal. His airplane wasn't airworthy. He didn't have a medical. I don't think he even had insurance.
That's my understanding.
He wasn't wearing a headset.
Jesus. Okay.
And then that happens. And it's one of these things, like I said before, when you think about it, you start thinking stuff like that, you wonder, if it was just a few seconds of difference, or if it had a 1 degree different in flight path,
Yeah.
he'd still be here. Nobody would know the better. It'd be fine. And that guy would still be flying illegally, and nobody would have said anything. But the fact that those two guys got together, you have the real good guy, the accomplished guy, the living his life, and you have the other guy who really doesn't care, doesn't have a conscience, doesn't really give a shit about what I'm doing. I'm just going to fly, and I don't care about that illegally. And the two of them combined, and that happens. That just drives you nuts.
Are we aware of what happened to that fella?
So he was fined, I think, about $3,000 or $3,500 from Transport Canada for some violation of a few regulations, and that's it.
Really?
Yeah.
So had that happened on the road,
The man would be in prison.
Well, there might be vehicular homicide
Yeah.
because you're doing everything illegal leading up to it, but nothing when you're flying.
We had encouraged the family, his brother, to press charges or something, because this is not uncommon what this guy did. If you're not based at an airport, nobody's going to care what you really do. You can do whatever you want.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because he's on his own property and does his own thing, there's nobody going to go out there and inspect his airplane or show me your license or anything like that. They just don't.
Oh.
They won't do that. They may do that if you're at an airport. They may walk around and say, show me some paperwork or let me see whatever.
But there's rules in the air, are there not?
Oh yeah, but I mean, you have to enforce those rules.
Yeah, it can't exactly be pulled over.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose that's true.
So we thought at the very least, let's, go after this guy and make an example to the rest of the aviation community to say you can't do stuff like that. It's not fair, and look what happens. And but that didn't happen. I don't know where that went or how that didn't end up.
I would hope and imagine that this man feels an obscene amount of regret and thinks about it often.
Well,
I don't know, but
you can only hope that
You
he
can
has
only
some
hope.
kind of remorse, and
Yeah.
if he has a conscience, he's got to live with that for the rest of his life. But if he did, he wouldn't have done what he did in the first place.
Right.
So it's a serious thing to run around without adhering to the basic regulations of a safe airplane, a license, and all that kind of thing. Basic communication. I mean, it's what you do.
So you said it's kind of common for a lot of these. It's common for people to have a private strip and in their own airplane, and they're going to go fly. But there's these regulations. When you say common, I mean,
Well, maybe I'll take that back. It's not so much common. Most pilots are pretty good.
yeah.
And then you get the individuals who really don't care. They get away with it. They're fine. And it's tempting because it's expensive to own an airplane and fly and maintain your license and all that kind of thing. So if you're going to cut corners and nobody's going to pay attention, if that's the kind of guy you are or person, then that's what you'll do. And as long as everything works, it's fine. Nobody really knows. We don't know how many people there are like that. But as long as it's fine, nothing happens, it's okay.
That's fascinating. I never thought of it before.
But when it
Yeah.
does happen, it's, like I said, consequences in aviation are serious. It's not, once you're 10 feet off the ground, things happen. And
Yeah.
you got to be accountable.
Speaking of regulations, can you fly? Are you regulated to fly at certain heights? Like you mentioned earlier, single engine, double engine, whatever, over the city, things of that nature. This is what I've heard. And
The way it works, the basic rule is 1,000 feet off the ground or 1,000 feet off a building. It's the highest building
okay,
in a single engine. The reason why we bought the twin engine aircraft is that it allows us to get lower. We can do that with Transport Canada permits and approvals. So we can get lower than 1,000 feet, and depending on the area, we can get pretty close to the ground.
wow,
And we've landed on downtown streets for some of the shows that we worked on, or flown through buildings. But we have to do a lot of preparation. We got to close streets, protect the public, get the right paperwork in place, and then do that. And that's all predicated on having that twin engine aircraft. That allows us to do that. It's part of the regulations thing there.
can you land anywhere you want within reason? Like not in city, maybe, but
I'd like to land everywhere I want. Sometimes
you could have flew here today.
I've got to land in the front yard, but no, there's restrictions about that as well. You can't, and basically the regulations are there to protect what they call the public. You don't want to endanger the public or risk the public, so they put in some guidelines. So I can't land within, say, 500 feet of a built-up area like a residential area or something like that. You don't want to encroach on houses. You can if you get a permit, then you drop a plan and get authorization to do that. And then the altitude thing as well. But if you have a farm in the north, there's nothing around there, there's nobody around, it's clear, and you can go in there and then you can land, it's fine.
So when I see these beautiful
That's
ads in high-end magazines of a guy landing his helicopter with his lady out in the middle of the lake somewhere and having a picnic, that's just, it is what it is. You can do that.
We can do that, yeah,
Incredible.
as long as we do it properly.
I want to fly a helicopter.
As long as we do it properly, you're prepared, you're fine.
That's fascinating.
Okay.
You mentioned some people that you work with that you wanted to give a shout out to and maybe talk about her.
Shelley Cook in particular is, what we've been doing all these years, and how much she's helped me with my career, with my business is from the film industry. It's been instrumental there. But as a whole, the whole stunt guy thing it's been incredible too. Those guys, everybody that's been involved with are great. So working with you, Rick Forsyth, Bronco,
Yeah.
all these guys have been very supportive of what I do, and And when we get into certain scenarios, they've been so professional in how they handle themselves, how they prepare, the safety aspect, the rehearsal side. So then when we do our gag or whatever we need to do, it's done well and done properly. And some of them have been quite significant. There, we did Resident Evil, where we came out of the helicopters about 50 feet off and land on top of the TD tower. Remember that? Were you there?
That's
for that?
cool.
No, I wasn't there.
So that was with Steve Lechescu. He was running that show, and so we're hovering on top of the TD tower at night, and we have a scene where the guy jumps out of the helicopter onto a pile of boxes. There's a good story here. We got time for stuff like that?
Yeah, man, go.
We got time, man.
So I can't remember who fell out of the machine, but we do this gag where I remember it was at night, and it was a tough night because the winds were blowing, and we're hovering on top of the TD tower in between buildings. I got another aircraft filming this and ground stuff. We got the zombie guys running around, and Steve lines me up with a laser, points a laser at the belly of the ship, and when we're in position, he says, "Go." And my guy's on the skid, hanging with one arm on the belt, ready to drop off. Steve's doing his thing, and all of a sudden, the director or second
The AD.
AD says, "Stop, abort." Steve freaks out because my guy's just ready to leap, right? And I yell at the guy, "It's abort, get back in the ship," and I just pull away and to reset again. So there's a big commotion on the ground, and Steve is just, you know how Steve is, right?
I do.
Yeah. So he clears that up. We get back in position, and this guy free falls into the boxes, and the clip is wonderful. It's just absolutely perfect.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, stunning.
How high is the fall?
I don't remember the actual footage. Just say for argument, let's say 50 feet.
Okay.
It was a good height, and there's some good action there, and it's for real. It's not CGI. It's not fake. There's no wires or nothing.
Remember when we used to
Love
make
it.
movies and there was no wires and there was no CGI?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a real deal. And we've done a few things like that. And speaking of that, I mean, some of the shows that gave me things that I don't know, inspiration, but, stuff that I take from, there's a couple in particular. There's Apocalypse Now.
Mm-hmm.
The helicopter scenes were
Beautiful.
beautiful, but they were real. They weren't, there was nothing fancy going on. They're actually choreographed and coordinated.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful stuff, and I watch it over and over again. Specifically, that section, that one scene where they're all coming and doing their thing, and
With the music blaring.
the music and all. But it's amazing, the amount of work that went into that and the stuff that they did. It's incredible.
Yeah, people have no idea.
Yeah, and you don't see that anymore. I don't know if we could ever do that again.
The days like that are gone. Those are gone.
But that's a huge thing. Look at all the helicopters they had, and those are big Hueys. They had everything there.
Yeah,
The
they had everything.
all the gunships.
There's another show before that with David Jansen. It'll Come to Me.
David Chanson D.
Remember him? He was.
Yeah, I know the actor exactly.
He did one movie. It was a helicopter show, and he was flying a news helicopter around Los Angeles, and there was a bank robbery. So he sees the robbery on the ground. They drive away. They get to an airport, and they get in their helicopter. And the rest of the movie is a helicopter chase scene through the mountains and everything
Oh, cool.
else. And they end up flying into an abandoned airport, into a hangar. The two helicopters are inside the hangar, flying around, jostling for position and all that.
Oh, man. What?
Yeah, and it's the real thing. And then the climax is they try to get out through the door, and they crash.
And do they do the crash?
I can't remember his
Oh, we got to find that.
Birds
got-
of Prey?
Birds of Prey.
Thank you, D. That was D.
It's an awesome show. It was done in the 70s and was one of the first real helicopter action shows. And the aerial cinematography that was done by helicopter was one of the first times that they actually used that kind of stuff. And it's really really good to see that. That's something that you take for an example or whatever, and learn from that. I've watched it a million times.
Wicked.
Yeah, it was hard to find because it was never released. There's some kind of legal thing, so they never let it go on
Really?
on video or anything like that. But I found it on I think it was YouTube or something.
Okay, I'm gonna have a look.
It's worth a look. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'm gonna watch Apocalypse Now again too. When you put that big camera rig on the front of your chopper,
Yeah.
that has to be balanced. And what for you is
Yeah.
flying different?
Yeah, depending on the system that we're using, but normally for film, or we used to use the film system, it's a big camera. So it sits on the nose or on the side. And there's special brackets that are made for that bolt onto the helicopter, and then the camera system mounts on this bracket. It's all counterweighted and balanced. So when you've got everything installed, the machine pretty much is back to where its normal
Okay.
balance point would be, and we fly accordingly. It's just a lot more weight. But there's a few versions of that. Nowadays, everybody's shooting video, so you don't see the big systems anymore. The film systems, we don't do that. So the balls are smaller, less weight, less work to install, and allows us to do more maneuvers that we wouldn't be able to do as easily with the big systems.
That reminds me of a joke that I made up just now.
Yeah.
It's like with CGI and green screen and wires, the stunt community, the balls are smaller now. Shout out to all my stunt friends. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's funny.
I had another question, but I forgot.
Well, so
I know.
okay.
Can I ask my question?
Go
now?
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, okay. Can we talk about drones?
Yeah.
This is where I was going.
Yeah, or yeah?
Yeah.
Because
Future.
for a long, long time, anytime we did any aerial stuff, it was you in a helicopter. And now I go out, we're doing car commercials and
Yeah, and we just had literally the guest we had on
Tom Comet, the
last
owner of
was
Drone Boy.
Tom Comet. Yeah.
what's happening? Like are you losing work because of that?
More and more as the drones get better and better,
Yeah.
and as they're accepted more by the producers and directors, and it's all one big pot there. So when drones first came out, they were doing things that we couldn't really do anyway, like the real close-ups and all that sort of thing. But when they tried to do our stuff, it wasn't all that great. And we used to get called on reshoots, come back and reshoot what the drone tried to do. They can't really, we have much better lensing, much better optics, and we can stay up for hours at a time. They can't.
Oh, so no, that's interesting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So, there's trade-offs in either one. And I
Okay.
think we both have our positions or what we can do and what we can't do. And I was hoping that would settle itself out. We have our part that we can do, and you guys do yours, and that's good enough. But I think what I've noticed, especially in the last few years, they're doing more, and everybody's okay with the production quality or what they see for what they're doing.
Right.
And we've been cut out. I think we've taken a bit of a hit there.
Yeah, well, technology is getting
Yeah.
better. Cameras are getting smaller. You're shooting massive quality with these little tiny cameras. And it's a lens issue now, and the weight, I guess.
Yeah. So to me, an aerial shot is always good for production. It always looks great, no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely.
It's just who's going to do it now. Mm-hmm.
But I also find, and this is maybe just my opinion, that it's being overused. Just because you have a drone doesn't mean you should shoot it. You
Well,
know what I mean?
it
Like,
is. Yeah.
every show has these shots now. Every show, and not every show should use it.
Yeah. But it's there, so they'll take it, right?
Yeah.
I feel bad for the crane guys
Yeah.
because why go through all the trouble of setting up a crane when you just flip it with a drone and you're done?
Yeah.
So I'm sure they
The one thing that the crane has that the drone doesn't is how close it can get to a face.
Yeah.
You know.
That's true.
Yeah, we're all waiting for
You
the
know.
day that a drone flies into Robert De Niro or something like that, and then see what happens.
Oof. Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Wouldn't be a good.
Well, that's
it
the
would-
truth.
It would knock the mole off though.
Knocks the what?
The mole on it.
Okay, so Robert, I apologize.
Oh,
It's all good.
respectfully.
Yeah, respectfully knocks it off. So anyway, I told you we say anything here, Dave.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
The other thing that's kind of hit us has been CGI, which
Sure.
we've had a couple occasions where we're all ready to go to do a job. We're all contracted out. We've been to location scouts and meetings, and on and on and on. And then comes to the day, we changed our mind. We'll just
Yeah.
CGI.
And that's both CGIing with you behind the scenes as well as helicopters in front of the camera. They're painting in helicopters
Yeah.
nowadays.
And I've tried to argue a few times to say, we can do whatever you want us to do for that shot. You don't have to CGI. You'll have the real thing. It's not a problem. But they get insistent, let's do the CGI. And then when I see it, I see a CGI helicopter. I know it's a CGI helicopter.
Yeah, most people do.
But maybe a lot of the public viewing don't. And they're okay with it. So
I mean, that is,
I guess-
unfortunately, that is extremely true.
Yeah, technology is getting better, but I know it is. As a matter of fact, directly behind you, there's a picture of my wife with Jeannie Becker that we did the City TV, and you shot that. They come up to the airport, and you landed. I guess they got in, and you landed, and she and Terry David Mulligan got out of the helicopter, and then clipped onto a rope, and then for the live, they shot this previously, and then for the live show, Rhonda and I slid down as them into the crowd. But it was anyway. But
Yeah.
the reason I mentioned that is because at the beginning of that shot, they have a CGI helicopter landing on City TV downtown.
yeah.
I hate to say this, Dave, but I didn't know that. I didn't know it was CGI. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, man. I mean, those drones, they get some, like we shot with the drones inside the hearse.
The Hearn.
Or the hearse. And you just can't fit a helicopter in there.
We tried.
Seriously?
Yeah.
For real.
We
Man,
got
what?
asked to put a helicopter inside that building. And we just said, no, we can't do it.
I mean, there's pillars every,
Oh my God.
Well, the pillars and all that, but the dust.
Oh.
Oh,
would have-
okay.
The dust alone would have killed us. That was pretty nasty stuff in there.
What the hell did they want you to do?
Oh, I don't know. It was a feature film. I can't remember what it was. It was years ago. But we flew around that Hearn area. We did some stuff, and then they asked me, can you fly inside the building? I said, well, I'd like to, but I'm not going to worry about that.
There was a machine on Man from Toronto, and the director. I got the idea. Like I was doing some likely B-roll driving stuff, with a couple other stunters, and we were all over Ontario this whole day. But what you said earlier, the helicopter's up in the air the whole day. We didn't have to land it, adjust anything, wait for a battery, whatever the case might be. But I got the idea that the director just loved being in a helicopter. There was he didn't want to do anything else. He really wanted to be in that helicopter.
We've had those.
It's fun.
I mean, those big budgets must still want guys like you. No, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking, we did a show with Renee Harlan,
Okay.
the one where they burnt down the hotel there in Muskoka. Remember that?
Yes.
What's the name of that show?
Oh, it's gonna
I
come.
don't
to
know.
me.
Anyway,
Yeah, we'll get it.
we'll get it. So we have a scene where we're flying downtown Toronto, down Bay Street, below the buildings, chasing a vehicle. And he insisted he had to be in the aircraft. He didn't have to be there. He wanted to be there. In cases like that, the less the better. I just want whoever just needs to be there. So me, my camera operator, we can do a microwave relay of the video, the images and all that. No, he was in there. He had to be there. It was pretty exciting, but that's one of those kind of things.
I mean, that is so cool.
The long
It
kiss.
is cool. You must have been. Was it?
The long kiss goodnight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Okay. I mean, you must. Every single time you're working with somebody, you. This is what you do every day. But every single time, those people must get pretty excited to be on your machine.
Maybe not so much machine, but I think there's always that extra level when the helicopter's on the job. No matter what we're doing, if it's aerials or picture vehicle or stunts, it just takes it to another level.
Yeah.
And I can understand that, and I kind of feel that when I get there, that we're there to do what we have to do. It's not just a regular deal.
But I kind of agree with Andrew in that it's not every day that director
Right.
gets to climb in beside you or in the back seat and fly around with you. So
Or any
that
actor,
excitement
or a
level,
day player, stunt
Yeah,
guy,
absolutely.
or
yeah.
or maybe once in a while you have a hair girl going up there. I mean, I don't know.
If it's anybody, it'll be a craft service person.
Of course.
Yeah,
Can't forget the donuts.
Hey, speaking of that, I'm going to have that butter tart.
Jump in there.
Dive in. Hey, Dee, do you want anything? I will come bring it to you if you'd like something.
No, I'm fine, thanks.
All right.
Thanks for bringing these again, Dave. This is incredible.
It is. This stuff looks awesome. What do I want?
We're taking a pause for an Italian Timmy's. I love that.
Thanks, Dave.
So
Sorry about any of the lip
where do we
smacking.
go from here, Dave? Like what's happening with your company? You're have you any features in?
So far, it's been pretty quiet. We did an Amazon thing there last week, some kind of like a reality show thing there. Seems kind of slow for us right now. Maybe things will pick up this summer. The writer's strike, unfortunately, that might hurt us again.
The Directors Guild might go on strike. Actors are talking about going on strike.
So
There's a lot of
Man, and I can't help it. What have you done there?
my.
my God.
My donut is
That thing looks good, though. Wow.
looks amazing.
Now I'm afraid of this thing falling apart like that.
Don't draw attention to my sloppiness.
No,
It's delicious.
yeah. Yeah, COVID was a bit of a hit on everybody at first. Now there's all these strikes, and I can't help but feel that the strike gives the execs a little time to get comfortable with using technology. It's kind of weird. It seems like a catch-22.
Yeah, the AI stuff.
yeah, and if they don't have a requirement for product, as they call it, they're willing to sit back and wait. Right?
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all doing that slow right now.
Yeah.
There's a couple of shows that have all their scripts so that they're not writers' strike dependent. But if that's the right way to say it, I'm going to put this down.
Oh, you're butchering that thing, Randy.
Oh, that's a good way to use my name. That's good.
Thing looks amazing, but you lost
It is,
half the
but
center.
Yeah, I know. Don't have the camera on me right now.
It's funny.
We also do stuff like sports. We do the Grey Cups every year.
Oh, I never thought of that.
We go up and do the aerials for broadcast, and we've done that all over Canada. Every time they go somewhere, we're always there for that. We used to do a lot of hockey stuff during the playoffs,
Oh, wow.
downtown aerials, and that's all us. And so we kind of mix it up that way too.
Do all you guys know each other? All the news choppers and all the...
Pretty much,
Yeah?
yeah. It's a small stuff. Even the film guys, the film pilots. And up here in this part of the world, it was myself working Ontario. There was another guy working more or less in Quebec. And in the western part, the guy was Jim Filipponi, who pretty much was the western guy. Did a lot of work out of Vancouver. Is pretty busy out there. He's
Okay.
retired now, but we all had our sort of kind of territory. We all knew each other. We talked to each other. Maybe spell off some business. If there's a show
Oh, yeah,
going in
sure.
Vancouver, I would recommend Jim to do the job. And
I do exactly the same thing with some stunt guys.
so I don't step on somebody else's toes there and let them deal with it. And he'll do the referral this end, and we have that camaraderie there.
Oh, that's cool.
And the Americans, they've got a pretty closed group of guys. And they, that's what they do, and they're pretty good at that kind of thing. So if you want to do aerials, there's guys who are specific to LA, and there's guys that are specific in New York, like Al Cirillo and Jim Richards. They're the go-to guys, and they're very specialized in their things there.
Cool. And do you guys get to communicate while you're up in the air? Hey, Jim, I just saw you.
Yeah, I know guys that are flying around. I'll just say, "Hey, how's it going?" Or they do the same with us, but it's
That's
very
cool.
short because we don't want to get into it. But
Yeah.
it's a closed group of guys.
Well, sometimes you
Fascinating.
see coppers, parked in a parking lot like this, next to each other, hanging out. Do you guys ever just fly right next to each other?
Or hover facing the opposite directions.
Yeah, wave.
Not unintentionally. We'll do that purposely.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
No, that's fun.
There's got to be, like, when you guys fly, I guess, well, just the distance between the two of them. Anyway, I'm thinking of Apocalypse Now and shooting a camera, shooting a chopper.
Yeah.
We've done a bit of that. We did that last week. We're doing air-to-air with another helicopter flying around the city and all that. And interesting bit of coordination that goes on with that, and talking to pilots, how who's going to do what and how we're going to work this thing here. And there's a comfort factor of how close you can get with the guy you're flying with,
I can imagine.
and making sure that he's going to do exactly what he will do, or when you tell him to, whatever. And
You did that on Mayor of Kingstown as well, right? Above the prison?
that's right. We did the air-to-air with. I was on the camera ship. We had our jet ranger there. He got shot or something like that.
Yeah, they were shooting at him.
Yeah, so we did that little gag over top of the prison. We were supposed to do more stuff on that. They wanted to bring in two small Hughes 500s.
Yeah.
With
We
the-
were all really excited for
With
this.
the cannons on the side, the machine guns.
So I was wrangling those two aircraft and starting to mount up there. We had to get the guns and the approvals and everything else. So it got a little expensive. I think they kind of backed off. But I gave them an alternative to use our ship. We did a gag on Bulletproof Monk. We had a Gatling gun set up on the side of the aircraft, firing blanks. And we strafed the roof of that building on
Cherry Street.
on Bathurst and Front.
The
The food building or something, the bread building. I can't remember.
Oh, I know what you mean, though. The big red building.
it's old.
It's not there anymore. It's gone. But yeah, an old building that was empty, like a warehouse or something like that.
Yeah.
So they shot a lot of that show there. There was fight scenes and all that kind of stuff. So our job was to come in and strafe the building with this machine gun, and they're having a fight scene and all that. There's a clip on YouTube specifically of the helicopter action,
Okay.
and it's for real. It's
Sweet.
not. It's
I'll write that one down.
actually.
Bulletproof Monk?
Yeah, I've got the link. I'll just happen to have it on my phone. Gosh darn it! How did that get there?
Yeah, I think everybody's going to go on to YouTube and see this.
I'll send it to you.
Okay. I'll put it up on the
Yeah.
podcast.
So we DJ Carson was PMing that job, and we ended up getting. I think Frenchie was on that with another guy. So he got the actual minigun that they use in the military. It's I don't remember the caliber, but it's this thing. We wired it and we mounted it on a camera mount on one side of the helicopter, on my side, and then we ran the the belt with the bullets inside the baggage compartment was all contained. We wired it into the helicopter so it had power, and I pulled the trigger, fire this gun. 1,000 rounds a second. We got all that sorted out, had it all nicely put together. The guys did a great job, our crew, and working with the gun guys, and we put it all together. We ended up doing a trial down at Leslie Street Spit. Got there, we had a few people sorted out and pull the trigger for the first time, and it was amazing.
Was that Charlie that you were with?
Frenchie.
Oh, at that time. Oh, that was a different one.
Maybe French,
Sorry.
I can't remember, but it was the local gun guy that was always
Yeah,
there.
no, yeah.
So DJ had bought, I think, like 4,000 or 5,000 rounds of ammunition. It was all blanks. So we fire this thing off, and it is stunning. The gun muzzle is right beside me, outside the door. The flame comes out right next to me. The smell of gunpowder, and we didn't put on. There's I guess like a collector for the shells.
Okay. Oh, I didn't. Okay, cool.
We didn't put it on.
Oh, okay.
So there's this shower of shells coming out of the gun, and it's just amazing. So everything works fine. Everything is perfect. So on the day, I do my thing over top of the building there, and then I fire the gun off, and it's just, and all the shells are on the roof, and they're on the floor, on the ground, on the street, and the noise is unbelievable. The cops freaked out. Apparently, they heard this gun going off. They didn't know.
I can only imagine.
It's unlike anything you've ever heard of. And the whole helicopter's kind of got a buzz to it as it's going off. And I'm thinking, who would want to stand in front of the real thing? I just don't understand that. It was incredible.
Yeah.
But it was, so I proposed to Alex that we do with this gun. I said, I got all the approvals. I got everything we need to do. I just need the gun. And trying to describe how we could come off the river nice and low over top of the wall and just let it go, right? It would have been amazing.
I was a part of most of those meetings.
Yeah.
We were so looking forward to this happening.
Yeah, we could have done a real nice job there.
But by the same token, I'm in the compound in the yard of the prison, and we had 75 military guys along the wall with machine guns, and they started firing. And you're in the yard while they're firing down on you, and I had the exact same thought. Who would ever want to be on this end of that?
Oh, fuck.
In real life.
Exactly.
Like, it's mind-bending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Charlie Taylor talking about the amount of money they wanted to spend on the ammunition for these
The blanks.
choppers. Yeah, and he said somewhere like 300 grand or
Like, it's just
something,
insane.
something just silly, give or take $1 or $2.
But
I wish.
We used hundreds
was
of guns and thousands of rounds through this show. And we were so looking forward to the helicopter thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That was one of the first things we talked about
Yeah.
right before we started shooting.
Yeah, I was disappointed because I thought we could have done well there, but they decided not to do that.
Was it just a money thing?
I heard that it was probably too much for the show. Not money-wise, but
Yeah,
just,
season 2 would have been a lot boring.
just
A
the
lot more
visual of the helicopter coming in, unleashing this Gatling gun over top of the crowd. I think that's where they drew the line.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
A bit of an ethics type of
We didn't
thing.
have many lines on this show. So
What do you mean?
Well, it drew the line. Like,
Oh, I
we
see.
don't want to go above. Wow.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah,
75
true.
guys with machine guns.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Man,
I'm
crazy.
sorry, my mind's going back to that helicopter talk.
Yeah.
It was great.
So what if I'm young and want to fly helicopters? I mean, maybe in the film business, some future technology seems to be making its way in, like the drones and stuff. But is there still a very relevant world? I mean, I see helicopters every day, but has it slowed down or is it still going? Is there a future?
There'll always be a requirement for a helicopter in a variety of things. And that's what's interesting about the helicopter world. There's a lot of applications you can get involved in, depending on your ambition, your skill, how hard you work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only restrictions you have is your own personal personal thing. There's corporate work, there's film work, there's fire work. You can work offshore. You can do all kinds of stuff, depending how you want to apply yourself.
Yeah, a friend of mine is a nurse that does the northern territories, and gets dropped off on mountainsides and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of thing obviously is going to be available for a very long time.
And a lot of it is not always that intricate. It's usually what we call meat and potatoes work. You're doing a scheduled air ambulance job. You're working so many days on and off, and same thing over and over again. Offshore work where you're flying guys to the rig back and forth, and that's it. But it's all helicopter stuff. It's all skill level, and again, what you want to do. In my case, I try to be have as much variety as I could stand. Be able to do all kinds of stuff, not be an expert at anything.
Which you've done. You've had that.
No real expertise, but be able to, if I have to lift an air conditioner on top of a building, I can do that. I can do a film shoot. I can fly a guy with suits to his cottage.
That's what I would like. I would,
Yeah.
So that's the part that I've enjoyed about that industry. And again, like I said, whatever suits you.
And I imagine just being in the air must be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's the addiction.
Yeah,
Whether it's
only
an
imagine.
airplane or a helicopter or whatever, there's nothing like it.
I have desired it myself since young.
You get a taste of that, it's really hard to get it out of your system. I think retirement is not something I'm looking forward to, but it's just a whole different perspective that it's not very common. You're used to ground level stuff.
But now retiring from the job is one thing, but you'll never retire as a pilot, maybe, or will you?
I don't know. We'll see when I get there. See what happens.
Interesting.
I imagine it's pretty costly to fly.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's an expensive proposition. If you privately, you can do it. If you have a budget, you can work around that kind of thing. There's ways of dealing with it. Ownership is another level of activity. That's not cheap. Again, depending what you have. So the best way to do about it is to do that as an occupation.
So just offhand, a 5 or 6, 7 passenger Jet Ranger, what's that worth?
You're starting at $1 million.
We should go splits.
A few Bitcoin.
I used a Jet Ranger, Long Ranger. Looking at $1 million, and it goes from there.
And then once you own it,
There's
those. Yeah, what
maintenance.
are the costs? What kind of thing are you paying for?
Just in our case, a Twin Star. Its insurance is about $25,000 a year, just insurance alone.
Jesus.
Wow.
Fuel is about $2 a liter. It burns 400 liters an hour.
Wow.
Maintenance costs. I don't have a good number on that, but just for our sake of argument, every hour is $1,500 an hour.
Okay.
And that covers replacement, labor, things like that.
Wow.
Crap. Holy
So
crap.
like, if a young person wanted to get involved with helicopters, what would they do? Where would it's costly. You get 100 hours, or what is it?
So the course, the way it works, you go to a flight school, a helicopter flight school, and I think the minimum course is 100 hours of flying.
Okay.
Then you've got ground school to do. And some guys are able to pull it off in 100 hours. Some guys need more time, depending how good you are. And then that's just the basic course. Then if you want to advance, you do maybe an endorsement or qualification on a bigger helicopter, like a Jet Ranger or something like that, to make you a little bit more hireable when you want to get a job. But you come out of there just knowing the basics, pretty much taking off, flying around, landing, and that's about it.
Wow.
And then you're out looking for a job.
It's expensive to spend that 100 hours?
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what the numbers would be, but it's a major investment. I compare it to if you're going to invest to be a doctor or a lawyer. It's the same level of investment in your
Well, that's
career.
interesting.
And it's a career. It's not something you do on the side or a day job or whatever. It's a full-time career. So you're going to put your money into that so that that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, we know a few people that have done it.
Yeah.
And they're helicopter pilots, but do not work helicopters.
Which is fine. Privately,
Yeah.
if you want to just
Oh,
buzz
they
around.
don't even fly anymore.
You know, if you have the money to afford that kind of thing, that's great. But most of the guys that do that, it's a career choice,
Yeah.
and you treat it as such, and you invest accordingly, so that you can have a full-time career.
Yeah. Very interesting.
It's fascinating. I was once told that flying a helicopter is like balancing a spinning basketball on top of a spinning basketball.
Oh, I'm good, but I'm not that good. That sounds too complicated for me.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to say, Dave? Plug your company. Anything else that you do?
Oh, geez.
Yeah, let's tell the world.
You know what? I'm not a good promoter, self-promoter. I let everybody else do that for me.
Well, we will.
We're trying.
I've had success with that, so I'm kind of used to that kind of thing. You know who I like to promote is and I think I mentioned it before, is the stunt community, the stunt guys.
Right on.
And I feel, if you don't mind me saying so, an affinity with you guys because we sort of work on the same angle, performing and all that, working together. And I've had a lot of support over the years from the guys and, how they represent us with production and all that. And for that, I'm really, really grateful. That made the big difference for us. And of all the stuff that I've worked on, jobs, doing other things, the most gratitude I've had is hanging out with those guys or you guys.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It's been great.
But the respect is reciprocal. That's why you're here.
Yeah. I couldn't do as much as I've done without that kind of background support. It's not just me. It's that whole team effort that we put together. We seem to work well. We all know what we have to do. We all have the same goals in mind, to work professionally, effectively, and be safe about it. And the other jobs I've done, not always the same thing. It's a tug of war sometimes, but I never had that issue on a film shoot. And that's made, like I said, the difference in everything that we've ever done. So
That's great.
yeah.
I love that.
Well, just actually, I have one more thing that I'd love to bring up for sure is, whatever anyone's opinion is, doesn't matter. There's this idea that that we have to protect our world, our globe, and there's electric cars and all this coming out and whatever. Is aviation in any way a part of that group?
Oh, let's talk about religion.
Let's go.
Oh no.
Or
Let's
politics.
go, baby.
Are there going to be electric helicopters?
Realistically, I don't think so.
I will never get on one.
It seems a little crazy.
Not to the level that we have, that we perform with or achieve. I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it's a great way to promote technology or develop technology. Would it ever be as effective as at what we're at? I just personally, I can't see it with what I know about that stuff. I can't see that happening.
But I suppose there's somebody in a university that knows a little more than we do, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff about that. But I mean, some of the things that we do, I just don't see that happening. Yeah, there'll always be a requirement for jet fuel and turbine engines and all the stuff that goes along with that. Pretty sure.
Yeah. I mean, unless they're able to travel us that fast and over big oceans and all that stuff from down on the ground without. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, I just don't see that happening. I can't see it. Even fixed wing, an electric airplane. The amount of power that's required to fly, it's I can't see that happening with the technology that we have now. Be able to do that electrically. I just don't see that. You can buzz around maybe for a few minutes, but no.
Well, that's what they have. They have ads. I've seen ads for these little hover bikes. Like these personal drones that you can sit in, and they tell you they can fly for 10 minutes or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They have a mile.
I mean, that tech will get better at some point, but I mean, I remember having my first cell phone.
Yeah.
Which is literally just over 20 years ago. It's been barely 2 decades, and we already have. I can call Dave while he's in his chopper on it and look at his face. I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody out there can speak, I guess, to this kind of thing brilliantly, but it does sound like it's so far away.
If at all, yeah.
Maybe nuclear
If at
power
all.
might work better, but I don't know about flying around with a nucler reactor in the back of.
Of your helicopter.
Yeah, it sounds a little freaky.
You can go faster.
Who knows how they'll harness that? Well, Dave, while you're hanging out in front of all these signatures, you interested in signing our table?
Sure,
We would love that.
Yeah,
And as you can see, if you feel so inclined, you can draw a little picture.
Yeah, and you don't have to be in this area. Everyone navigates there, I suppose, but you can be wherever you want.
let me see what I can do here. No pressure.
Yeah. And again, for anyone listening, rather as opposed to watching on YouTube, you're about to hear a marker scratch on the table.
I think the one thing I wanted before I walk away today is express some gratitude to my family for supporting what I've been doing all these years.
Absolutely.
My wife, my daughters, my parents, they've put up with a lot of stuff that I've been through and all that, and I want to make sure they understand that I owe a lot to them. That's kept us going all these years. So
Absolutely.
Nicely done.
yeah,
How many daughters do you have?
I have two daughters. Are the apple of my eye, I guess you want to call them.
Yeah, man.
They're good girls, and they've done really well, and they're good to have. No
But
problem.
like you just said, they've had to put up with you. And
Yeah,
that's-
absolutely. Absolutely. No chore in that one.
What we got?
That's the only way Andrew flies.
Flying high, baby.
I just hope I don't make any spelling mistakes.
Yeah, Dave, have you ever hotboxed your helicopter? No.
Put on some AC/DC and
Yeah. Man, unfortunately, I imagine someone out there's doing that. Flying high.
oh, look at the helicopter. Beautiful.
There you go.
Man, thank you. What a pleasure.
Thanks, Dave.
It's been a pleasure, guys. I hope this works for you.
Oh, yeah.
This, it was just great
fascinating
seeing you.
Yeah.
It was great that you're here.
Thanks.
And I tore apart that tart. That tart. Just,
Yeah,
Kinda-
well, yeah.
yeah.
That tart tore
I
apart you.
butchered it. Anyway, thanks, Dave.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
Appreciate it.
It was
Thank you.
awesome, man. Thank you.
Okay, cut it, D.